Hearing of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee will come to order. 2 years ago, as the people of Cuba took to the streets chanting "Down with the dictatorship," government forces tried to silence the protesters with tear gas and violence. Afterwards, a Catholic priest from Cuba visited me and told me about a young man who came to see him in church. He related the story saying, quoting the young man, "I would fight," the young man said. "I would give my life for the cause of freedom, if only someone would know that I died. If only someone would know that I died." I think about that 2 years later as I look around the world at those people willing to risk their lives to defend democracy and human rights. From the activists facing execution in Burma, to those being jailed by dictatorships in Belarus or Venezuela, to those bravely protesting for their fundamental freedoms across Iran. And I think about what we can do to support these people who are alive and fighting, so they will not want to die just to be remembered. The international community, in my view, is not doing enough. The United States is not doing enough, and Congress is not doing enough. We're trying, but we need to do much better. So I hope to hear from all of our witnesses today about what more we must do to support human rights and democracy. How can democratic nations like our own better respond to autocrats like Putin and Xi, who have been meeting and marshaling their forces across the globe? Do we have the right tools to hold them accountable for their blatant atrocities of the rules-based international order, to combat their aggressive disinformation campaigns inside their own countries and around the world, and to counter their economic warfare and diplomatic bullying, whose impact can be seen when we look at how many countries were unwilling to censor Putin for his war in Ukraine? For too long, authoritarianism has lured world leaders with the promise of personal wealth and perpetual power. Authoritarian regimes have also been investing in technologies to control and repress their citizens, leading to social credit systems and intrusive state surveillance. We need to adapt our assistance to keep up with emerging technologies that can support democracy activists and human rights defenders, to keep the internet on when dictators try to turn it off, to shield the identity of those trying to report the truth. At the same time, we must also confront and understand the causes of the way of coup attempts that have increasingly undermined governments across the globe. From Burkina Faso and Tunisia to Peru and Brazil, we cannot stand idly by as democratically elected leaders are threatened or pushed out of power by mobs or militias. Because despite all of these challenges, pro-democracy movements are fighting back in some of the world's most repressive environments. And fragile democracies continue to push forward with democratic reforms. I'm pleased that this week the Biden administration is convening the second Summit for Democracy, with events in Washington, Zambia, the Netherlands, and South Korea. But I'm not sure I totally understand what the results of the first one are. We have to strengthen our efforts to help nations deliver for their people who want nothing more than peace and prosperity. That's why I'll be introducing two important pieces of legislation. First, the Protect Global Heroes Act, which will create a new limited visa category for human rights defenders and democracy activists facing imminent danger and persecution. And second, a comprehensive countering authoritarianism bill to strengthen the U.S. response and the tools to combat autocratic regimes. Beyond such legislation, the United States must better leverage our democracy assistance, international diplomacy, and sanctions regimes. We must keep pushing for the release of Chinese political prisoners like Ilham Tohti, the Uyghur writer, or Luis Manuel Otero in Cuba, or Vladimir Kara-Murza in Russia. Their struggle against tyranny is also our struggle. It is in the national interest of the United States to support the people and organizations fighting for freedom. Respecting human rights delivers the stability and fairness that makes investment, capital growth, and innovation possible. Democracies bring more wealth to more people and are more stable than autocracies. Democracy is more than just an ideal. It is a governing system through which people can hold their leaders to account and advance human rights. Democracy is a practical engine of self-correction and improvement that empowers people to constantly, peacefully struggle towards a better life. It's that better life that we want to help make a reality. With that, let me turn to the ranking member for his.